Hey guys, in this video we're going to be checking out the Helifar Turtles 135. This is a 3-inch micro, and it's going to be a short video because this basically is all of the same components, or in terms of specs, pretty much exactly the same as the very popular Furby X140 that I reviewed a while back, but obviously the form factor is different. Basically you get similar motors. They're not the exact same branded motors, but they're pretty similar. 1306, 3100 kV. They actually came with the same props, these 4-bladed HQ clones, or 3030 props. They're okay props, not the greatest. The frame here is obviously different. If you look at the X140 is a stretched X frame, whereas the Turtles is a H-style frame. It's 135 millimeters motor to motor, 85 millimeters front to back, and 115 millimeters side to side. So you get a wider distance side to side versus front to back. That's why you call it an H style, whereas the stretched X is the opposite. It's longer front to back versus side to side. So obviously different flight characteristics, although the components are very similar. The flight stack on the inside is also very similar. 20 amp 490 AC, F3 flight controller, and a power switchable video transmitter up to 200 milliwatts. The Turtles does come in 3 different versions. There's a kit version, plug-and-play version, no receiver, and then this version is the bind and fly, which comes with an XM, actually the XM receiver, not an XM Plus. Just get the single antenna here. I would recommend getting the XM version of the bind and fly if you can spare the $15 extra. If you get the kit version, you have to build it yourself. The XM version comes built like this with the receiver already in here, and the plug and play I think is like maybe $5 less. So it's about $130 for this one here with the receiver, and I think the kit version is like $115. That's a pretty good price. And if you guys remember when the Furby X140 came out, it was a very good price, and this is a very good price point here. If you want something like kind of value and pretty durable. I mean, it's probably gonna hold up pretty well in crashes. It's got 3mm bottom plate, 1.5mm top plate here. And it flew fairly decently. I mean, it came with a tune. The tune was a little on the loose side, but that's kind of the way things go with factory tunes. Is they make one tune for every model they build, and it's going to vary even if it's the exact same components. So if you make the tune too tight, you may get oscillations on one build versus another. So they try and make it a little bit on the looser side in case, it's better to have that versus launching your quad and having it oscillate and vibrate like crazy. So that's kind of why they put a lot of these guys, when they do a preset tune, they are a little bit on the loose side. But that's just the way it goes when you want to get a factory tune. But it flies decently well on the tune it came with. It was, I think, from Beta Flight 322 or 323, and as I said, it did come with a pre-factory tune. So I just didn't do any tuning at all, and it flew decently well on the PIDs that it came with. One difference that I want to make a note of between the two models here is that this one, the Turtles, comes with a micro Sparrow from Runcam, so it's like a branded camera, whereas the Furby comes with sort of a generic CCD camera. I believe this is a CCD camera, so this one here is going to be CMOS, I believe. So if you're not into CMOS cameras, you might need to change this, but I thought the Micro Sparrow is a pretty good camera that performs pretty well in if you have decent lighting conditions. In low light, it doesn't perform nearly as well. Okay, let's get a weight measurement here quickly. It's about 126 grams, right, basically like this, ready to fly. And then this is the X140. This doesn't have props on, and so it's going to be, actually it's about the same weight, but you got to add probably about 8 grams or 10 grams for props. So the X140 is actually a little bit heavier than the Turtles. Now the Turtles just come with an XT60 connector on here, and I did fly it with the battery on the bottom because the battery strap was on here on the bottom like this, and I didn't really feel like switching it to the top, although you could put it on the top. Although if you do that, you're gonna have to use a smaller battery and then reconfigure this and put the video transmitter antenna out the back or something like that. But your battery size is going to be limited because the top plate is a lot smaller than what you put on the bottom, where you could have the ends of the battery sticking out from the back and on from the front. I thought it flew fine battery bottom mounted, so it was totally fine. I would recommend changing the battery strap. It's not very good, and it worked for me, but if you crash at all, the battery will get ejected, so keep that in mind. They do include a XT30 connector if you don't like the XT60 connector, but then you have to take everything apart and obviously desolder the connector from the board, and then solder on the XT30, but I didn't feel like doing that. And I had some decent, I used a 754S LiPo with an XT60 connector, so it worked out for me. It was the same LiPo that I was using for the X140 flights. That also came with an XT60. So, if you have XT60 batteries, you're fine. If you only have XT30s, then you'll have to switch this out. Anyway, overall, I thought it performed fairly well. It's a pretty decent price right now. Obviously, like with the X140, price will fluctuate. I think it went up to as high as maybe $180, and I think it's also now back to down to like $110 or $115. And I think maybe the prices are lower now because of the 4th anniversary sale from GearBest. I'm not exactly sure, but I remember when I first looked at this one before it actually was in production. This one was probably, I think, around $145. So right now it's like $130, $132 for this particular model. So for that price, I think the way it flies and the way it's constructed, everything that, the way it basically came out of the box, I thought it flew okay. I think for the price, it's something that I would definitely recommend getting if you want to get a 3-inch micro. If you're looking for something that's fast or a lot more power, this is not going to be it. This is probably a good beginner to intermediate model, and I would say it's going to hold up pretty well. But it's not going to be a super fast flyer. So I mean, if you're like a racer and looking for ultimate speed, I would look at something like the Diatone GTM3 or the Skyzone S140, something like that. I'll have links to those videos up in the corner if you guys want to check those out in terms of other 3-inch models that might be faster. But this one definitely had pretty good power. I mean, it wasn't terribly slow, but a pretty average power, pretty average model overall, pretty good value for the price. Anyway, go ahead and I'll show you some flight demo footage. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.